The broadcast is now starting. All attendees.
Well, good day, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. We're very excited today to be presenting you this webinar that's covering the entire portfolio of Huawei switching products. So this is going to be a really great webinar. Before we get started, a couple of pieces of housekeeping. First of all, just want to welcome everyone and say thank you very much for spending an hour of your day with Huawei. As a small token of our appreciation, we are going to present everyone who stays on the webinar with a $10 Starbucks gift card. So enjoy a cup of coffee on us. As always, we're going to have some polling questions, so please join into that effort and answer the polls, and we'll share all the results with everybody that's in attendance. We also love to have questions from the audience, so please feel free to enter questions in your GoToWebinar pane, the interface pane. You can type in questions, and we'll take those at the end. Also, just want to mention that our speaker today is going to be Thomas Keenan, who's a Director of Marketing at Huawei and a specialist regarding the switching product overview. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Thomas.
Thanks, Nick. Hello and good morning, afternoon, or evening to our audience. Again, I'm Thomas Keenan, Director of Integrated Marketing for Huawei Enterprise USA. And I'd initially like to go over our agenda that we have. We've got an exciting seminar today, as Nick mentioned, covering switching in various parts of the network. I've also got some very exciting short-term financial incentives to announce at the end of the webinar to help get some Huawei switching solutions onto your network. So my goals for this seminar are three. My rule of three is always to have someone walk away from one of these seminars with three things they'd like to take action on or have learned. Number one, I want to make sure that we review the key trends and inflection points going on in the campus, data center, and metro. To highlight for you, number two, that your legacy vendor, although they may have a comfortable relationship with you, does not have all the answers to these key transitions that we'll talk about, and probably has actually more reason to keep you locked into their current approach. And also, thirdly, clearly to introduce Huawei as a serious switching provider and to suggest it's probably time to allow another vendor like Huawei to take a shot at help you navigate the networking maze. So to give you some background very quickly on Huawei, you fundamentally need to understand what's going on in our industry. We are very much seeing the convergence and merger of information technology such as mainframe with communication technology such as digital communications, mobile communications, and mobile broadband. This convergence, or ICT convergence as we call it, is being driven by three key trends. Number one, the adoption and use of cloud models, whether that be private, public, or hybrid. Number two, the explosion of mobility in almost too many verticals to mention, whether that be education, retail, public sector, and many others, driving the mobile worker percentage ever higher, and that's that whole story of BYOD. And finally, the consumerization of IT, and what I'm talking about there is where technologies previously seen in the enterprise have now migrated strongly to the consumer base and vice versa. So I have more and more of my consumers who are bringing their technology into the enterprise space and expecting to be able to use it. So if this fundamentally makes sense to you, it makes sense to ally yourself with a company that spans these technologies and is equally at ease in the worlds of enterprise, service provider, and consumer. And might I suggest that Huawei is exactly that type of a partner. Okay, so this slide shows a snapshot of who we are and what we do at the end of the day. We are a global player, extremely well-known outside U.S., a household name in most countries. We continue to work on making that well-known in the U.S. as well. And Huawei, as you can see in my growth chart, has continued robust growth, even during the most recent downturn, and logged for 2013 unaudited results of $39.6 billion in revenue. We do serve 45 of the world's top 50 telecom operators. And you're an enterprise customer, you may say, okay, that's fine on telecom, but why do you care in enterprise? Well, why you care is because those service providers, the network is their life. And quite frankly, they tend to be extremely tough on all types of solutions, and we often bulletproof those solutions first in service provider before we migrate those over to enterprise. We're deployed in over 140 countries. We serve a third of the world's population. We've got about 150,000 global employees, and we've got 70,000 dedicated to R&D. In essence, we have about as many engineers as a company like Cisco has headcount. And as you can imagine, out of that, we can become a top contributor to industry standards. And because of our deployments, particularly from the device level, we do have over 2 billion end users. So that's the big level snapshot worldwide. Let's focus now very quickly on Huawei in the U.S. So the North American regional office was established in 2001 in Plano. So we've been in this country about 13 years. We did garner about $6 billion of contracts to U.S.-based technology companies in the most recent year, and we have a great partnership with many U.S.-based manufacturing companies. The U.S. enterprise business, to get a little bit more granular, was launched in October 2011. If any of you were at Interop New York that year, that was a major piece of news. And I do get this question not a lot. Yes, we absolutely provide a full portfolio of professional, technical, and learning services, and that is absolutely crucial in any networking implementation. Okay, on the next slide, the enterprise product portfolio. At the highest level, we have a very full enterprise solution portfolio covering unified communications, campus, branch, and data center technologies, serving many key verticals such as retail, higher ed, manufacturing, media, and large enterprise. And again, to us, it's all about focus first in the U.S. We're going to go out, we're going to target those verticals that I talked about. We're going to get more success stories. We're going to be able to publish those. And I think that'll be really the key. The proof is in the pudding of having those customer case studies to talk about and then being able to migrate to other verticals. The breadth of our solutions clearly is a direct result of the size of our R&D organization and the innovations they drive. So hats off to them for an astonishing amount of work that they've done worldwide. Speaking of investment and innovation, this snapshot here shows the sheer breadth of the Huawei footprint in the innovation world. We have membership in 150 international standards organizations such as the IEEE, IETF, Continua, and HL7. We do hold over 180 positions in international standards organizations, and not just holding positions, but driving and actually chairing many of those committees. We have about 40,000 patent applications in China and about 13,000 outside of China. And as of June, we have actually had 26,539 patent applications granted. As you can imagine, all of this activity has garnered many awards, including those from IEEE from Innovation, Fast Company, the publication perhaps many of you read from an innovation perspective, one of the most innovative companies in the world that we have been recognized as, and even the Red Design Group for excellence in industrial design for things like our wireless access points. This innovation plus our extreme cost competitiveness, I feel, make a very powerful combination, a company you want to get to know better and look at the solutions in depth. So Nick, at this point, I think I'll turn it over to you for our first polling question.
Okay, excellent. So Thomas is going to go through a complete portfolio of switching products that Huawei offers. So the first question we would like to ask is about one of the more advanced technologies in the switching world, which is SDN. And what we want to know is, where are you, or if you're a reseller, where are your customers on the adoption curve for SDN? Are you kicking tires and thinking you're going to do something with SDN in the next 12 months? Are you already involved in light deployment? Are you heavy into the deployment already? Do you have no plans whatsoever? Or other. So please go ahead and vote. We'll give you another 10 or 15 seconds to vote. I also do want to mention one of the early questions that came in was asking about this webinar being recorded. And as all our webinars are, this webinar is definitely being recorded, and it will be made available on the Huawei Enterprise USA website. You'll see the URL for that at the end of the presentation, and you can go to our resources section and see all our recorded webinars there. So we'll go ahead and just give another 5 seconds, and then we'll show you guys the results. Okay, let's go ahead and share it. And what you can see is that about 40% of you are looking at this carefully and expect to do something with it in the next 12 months. Almost half are either in that phase or doing something light in terms of deployment. There is a significant percentage that have no plans whatsoever with SDN, so that's very useful for Thomas as he goes through this as well. Yeah, so thank you for responding to the poll, and we will definitely have 2 more polling questions coming up. Thomas, back over to you.
Thanks very much, Nick. Appreciate the kind participation there, and again, it helps us focus our webinars. So let me move on, and we'll now proceed to a quick examination of the top CIO industry care-abouts, i.e., what are the top trends they need to stay on top of, how have they shifted in recent years. From there, I'll link to industry trends like cloud, SDN, mobility, what are the top touch points in each area? What should you be focusing on in your deployments? Because these are trends that are happening, not if but when, and you absolutely want to be on top of them. Then getting to where the rubber meets the road, we will discuss the campus, data center, and metro networks and what discussions your networking vendor should be having with you to earn your trust in your continued business. And finally, we'll be showing you how we, Huawei, feel that we deserve consideration in your switching plans. So let's get right on that. Every year, the research agency Gartner surveys many top CIOs and presents the results. These results for this most current year are interesting in what they show. Take a look at the top 5: analytics and business intelligence, mobility, cloud, collaboration, virtualization. Those trends in particular are what keeps the CIOs up at night. Those are the things that they need that they know they need to prepare for in order to optimize their network infrastructure. All 5 of these have mostly been going up in terms of their importance over time, while others fall away. So have these in mind as we move into the section on key trends in data center, campus, and the metro. They're highly related, and they are mirrored in the next 2 sections of our presentation. Okay, so let's look now at new trends, new opportunities. Let's look at the industry trends that are driving both new opportunities for vendors and customers, but also challenges as well, no matter if we are discussing the campus, the data center, or metro. These include cloud networking and storage, BYOD, Wi-Fi, and the challenges of the bandwidth and the bottleneck as we scale the network from 1 gig connections to 10 to 40 and ultimately to 100 gig and beyond. Let me first talk about machine-to-machine innovation and how it's coming to our life. This first industry trend is highly related to an industry trend that a lot of you have probably heard called the Internet of Everything. The concept of Internet of Everything, or Internet of Things, first became popular through the Auto ID Center at MIT and related market analysis publications. Radio frequency or RFID labels were seen as a prerequisite for the Internet of Things in the early days. If all objects and people in daily life are equipped with identifiers, they could be managed and inventoried by computers. Besides using our RFID, other ways to achieve the same goal are through near-field communication, barcodes, QR codes, which most of you are familiar with. If you use a smartphone and you haven't seen a QR code, I'd be very surprised. And also what's known as digital watermarking. We are on our way towards that goal of equipping all objects in the world with identifying devices or machine-readable identifiers at some point. As a matter of fact, according to Gartner, there will be nearly 26 billion devices on the Internet of Things by 2020, which is not that far off. So my second industry trend is mobility and everything it involves. There's a very interesting industry survey I'm showing on this slide of where the network bills are directed. Where's that money that the enterprise has directed at? Let's start with mobility, where research tells us that up to 65% of many enterprise workforces are partially or totally mobile, i.e. they work on the road or not in a fixed headquarters or branch location. In 2012, enterprise wireless networking was the biggest in total business networking equipment investment ratio, accounting for nearly 1/3 of all spend. Mobile devices, remote and mobile access equipment, and instant messaging systems investment accounted for 40% overall, which are all associated, obviously, with mobility, BYOD, and the mobile business. Thus, more than 70% of investment is somehow related to wireless network construction. This continues to yield the demand for more powerful networks and more dependency on mobile business for the enterprise. So again, that's one trend you absolutely need to know. Not just it's coming, but there are security and positional challenges that you need to be aware of in the BYOD space. But almost every company I've talked to, for example, at the most recent trade show I was at RSA, almost everyone I talked to is very much within a horizon of having a significant piece of the company, if not the majority of their company, on BYOD. Taking a quick pause then, Nick, I think it's time for polling question number 2 to help keep on driving this webinar forward.
Excellent, excellent. So Thomas mentioned that Huawei is a household name globally, but just a little bit new to the U.S. market. So what we'd like to find out now is what is your predominant switching vendor currently? Who are you using today, or if you're a reseller, who have you been selling historically? Is it Cisco? Is it HP? Is it Dell Force 10, Juniper, or other? So we'll go ahead and let you vote on that and get a feel for what vendors you're currently selling. And this is a select one, so we're looking for the primary switching vendor. I'll let you go ahead and vote on that. One more time, just want to comment, please keep your questions coming in the Q&A panel. We're actually getting quite a few questions already, and they're great, so keep those coming, and we'll handle as many of those at the end as we possibly can. 5 more seconds, so get your last-minute vote in if you haven't already, and then we'll show you the results. All right, and no big surprise, the big-time winner with almost 75% of the total response is Cisco, followed by a distant second with HP and Juniper and some others down there. So I don't think that's any big surprise to you, Thomas, is it?
As a matter of fact, it's absolutely not. Cisco clearly has a large position in many networks, and so in essence, we're confirming that. Okay. All right, Nick, let's keep on going then with these trends. And the third one I'll talk about, another very interesting trend, is the merging worlds of video conferencing and video streaming. What is key then for the enterprise network to support this trend? Number one, to affordably create high-quality video communications. Number two, you want to be able to manage, track, and secure that video content as it transits across the enterprise network. And number three, you want to be able to deliver video content in real time and on demand to various target audiences. Obviously, this goes right along with that more dispersed workforce that I talked about via BYOD. If I'm going to go ahead and disperse that workforce, make it more mobile, make it travel more, the need to stay in touch is even more paramount, and a lot of that is going to occur via video. The enterprise in some needs to be video ready. A large portion of all traffic, up to 65% in some cases for the internet and the extranet in the future, will be video. It is the fastest growing type of traffic on the network today. My fourth trend is the cloud and the fact that it boosts IT deployment efficiency in a big way. The rise of cloud models, and obviously a lot of you are looking into this, whether they be public, private, or hybrid, or a combination of those three, is our next trend. It promises much better economics for network equipment purchases, especially those who are used in a temporary project or peak use period. More and more enterprises are delegating a portion, not all, but a portion of their workload to the cloud, often starting on a low-risk project and graduating to more and more mission-critical applications. This is particularly important if you're able to use a pay-per-use model, and a lot of companies have definitely been able to, particularly during peak times, for example, holidays, certain other peak times of the year, the end of the quarter, those types of things, have been able to use the cloud like a peaker plant, if you would, in the electrical grid model, where during certain high demand times I'm able to go up to the cloud and get that extra networking capacity that I need. The final industry trend that I'll go over here is one that always gets a survey mention, no matter what CIO survey we'll see, and that's the need to strengthen and maintain network security end-to-end. As I mentioned, with all the promise of BYOD and a lot of these other trends, there's always a corresponding challenge to how do I secure all my data and my employees so that while my employees become more efficient, I don't risk the corporation's assets. Security issues can be, if they are unfettered, can be the downside of all the new freedom we have with the new networking models. And that's because, number one, a variety of terminal types can now access enterprise networks, and there are more channels, therefore, of potential information loss, such as USB disks, email, internet, mobile phones, and other end-user devices. Number two, there are lots more means of attacking on the internet and much more sophisticated attacks that occur that can lead to critical information leakage. There was a lot of that on display at RSA, a lot of conversations just past couple of weeks in San Francisco here on how, what are all the new types of attacks and how can the enterprise defend against those. So if you're able to attend any of those sessions, you can see it's really top of mind with the enterprise. There's also internal network abuse and hack attacks that can wreak very large loss on enterprise information assets. And more attacks can come from inside, quite frankly, than outside the network sometimes. Employee misuse also and phishing websites can cause huge losses in information disclosure. It's absolutely paramount that the employee base be extremely well educated regarding security needs. And so at the end of the day, to summarize, having an end-to-end security strategy is more important, I think, than ever. Okay, so having gone from industry trends, let me quickly turn then to trends in the network, followed by Huawei's switching solutions. Let me start with the campus network development. Enterprise information technologies have gone through 3 developmental phases. Number 1, the standalone PC era that reduced manual labor. Number 2, the data era that saw the beginning of information sharing, and the current multimedia cloud mobile era that focuses on high-quality service experience. Information Week estimated in 2012, 75% of enterprises were using or willing to use BYOD as a work mode. It allows an employee to use any type of terminal anywhere, anytime to access the network. So the conjoined wired and wireless sections of a campus network must be seamlessly interconnected so that employees can enjoy the same online experience from any terminal. At the end of the day, campuses today are handling more data than ever and more services than ever before they are migrating to cloud platforms. The east-west traffic model has been replaced by a north-south traffic model on campus networks. The new traffic model requires a small ratio between uplink and downlink bandwidths. As predicted by Gartner, shipments of case-shaped switches with 1 gig ports exceeded those with 100 megabit ports basically almost 2 years ago now, 2012. 10 gig Ethernet technology has also developed rapidly since the first 10 gig standard was introduced in 2002. The standard was released in 2006, and the 4000 Ethernet gig standard in 2010. 10 gig Ethernet is therefore a mature technology today, and the costs of 10 gig optical modules and ports are decreasing every year, while the number of 10 gig port shipments is increasing rapidly. It's really the technology choice, for highly available networks. In summary, your vendor needs to understand and to show you a path to keep up with performance demands and provide wired and wireless integration, all the while improving network reliability so you can take advantage of the new cloud networking models. Let me turn now to the data center network. The scale and complexity of data centers and carrier networks are testing the limits of legacy IT gear and practices. Most IT organizations are extending their applications to run across geographically distributed data centers or entirely moving workloads to the cloud. Workloads, user flows, and applications are running on top of virtual and physical appliances, increasing data center networking complexity. East to west data center traffic, in addition to inter-data center traffic, are all on exponential growth curves. So look at another way to summarize that. IT is being driven to think of new networking models due to 3 things: new traffic patterns, federated applications, and virtual machine mobility. Static and tiered networking architectures are showing the signs of age and no longer able to keep up due to redundant costs, management complexity, and limited visibility into applications that they provide. Software-defined networks represent an industry shift of decoupling data and control panel and virtualizing applications which can address the new data center networking and security landscape. Huawei is highly involved in the standards committees that are helping driving SDN forward, and we'll talk more in our switching solutions piece about our Agile switch, our 12700 switch, which addresses SDN directly. And finally, the metro network, the issues that I just talked about have begun at the core, will indeed migrate out to affect the metro edge. The premium for the enterprise is to understand and manage end-to-end network performance out to the metro edge. This demands, number 1, end-to-end network fault recovery time to enhance network reliability to meet the needs of the cloud era, end-to-end service quality management to guarantee desktop cloud visualization, dimensional maintenance, and finally an end-to-end unified network management system that's able to achieve third-party device adaptation. And when I talk about our product lines, I will mention eSight, which is our end-to-end device manager, not only for Huawei solutions, but also for things such as printers and other IT devices on the network, as well as third-party devices. So your vendor in the metro should be talking to you about how they will solve these issues if they, in fact, deserve a place in your network. And so, Nick, at this point, it is time for our third polling question.
Thanks, Thomas. Thomas has gone over a whole bunch of the major issues that IT managers face relative to their networking. So this final polling question is really asking you, what is your top issue that keeps you up at night regarding your switching infrastructure? Is it security? Is it the manageability? Is it performance? Is it the scaling and bandwidth? Or is it something altogether different? So please take a few minutes to vote, and we'll share the results. One of the things Thomas was just talking about, the whole security component, if you didn't get a chance, we did an excellent security webinar last week as kind of a tie-in to the presence that Huawei had at the RSA show up in the Moscone Center in San Francisco. So if you didn't get a chance to attend that, you might want to listen to the recording of that webinar. It was an excellent overview of Huawei's security products and specifically some technologies we have around DDoS prevention. So with that in mind, we'll give you another 5 seconds and we'll show you the results here. All right, let's go ahead and share it. And this one is a lot more balanced. Security, which Thomas mentioned, is always a hot button for everybody. Almost half of the respondents view security as the #1 issue. And then there's a fairly good spread amongst manageability, performance, scaling. So that's very interesting information and definitely helps Thomas as he starts diving into the Huawei product line. So, Thomas, back to you.
Well, thanks, Nick. And yeah, at the end of the day, like I said at the RSA conference on security, again, the opportunity that all these new models involve is great, but again, they do bring with them their security challenges, and so I'm sure the security personnel at RSA will be cheered by the results of this poll because it's a lot of career move for them. If in fact you do have a lot of security expertise that's in high demand in the industry today. Okay, so let me quickly then move on after having close polling question number 3 to Huawei switching solutions. First, what I'd like to do, however, and that'll obviously be followed by our Q&A, but before I get into that, just to give you a little positional on the enterprise IP product portfolio overall, Huawei offers a very broad product line in IP, not just switching. We start to address the trends in various network types. We have a very wide variety of IP solutions spanning the gamut from core to edge routing, security, data center, campus switching, as well as transmission and wireless solutions. So at the end of the day, stop back early and often for our webinars because we do cover these technologies, weekly to bi-weekly, and there's always a new topic that we're typically talking about. But again, want to make sure you get the idea that switching is but one of our IP product portfolio. Having said that, let me move on directly to our switching product line, starting with the campus. And in the campus, we've got high-performance, reliable, and what I'll call eco-friendly switches, which cover, #1, the access, whether that be the S5700 and S1700 line, aggregation, and that's taken care of with my S6700 and 7700 models, and my core, my 9700, and as I mentioned, my SDN focus switch, the S12700. High performance in my product line is provided by a non-blocking end-to-end 10 gigabit solution for best network performance, and my high backlink capacity makes upgrades from 40 to 100 gig easy, maximizing network investment ROI, particularly in the core. Reliability in my solutions is enabled by my cluster switching system capability that allows running multiple switches as one, enabling better return on network investment via capacity expansion for the core layer. I also provide very quick switchover for continuous network uptime. And then finally, when I mentioned eco-friendly, not just that we tested this internally, but we've actually gone to MyerCom, which is a very strong lab organization that tests both performance and eco-friendliness in the U.S. and overseas markets. And this is incredibly important because the efficient use of energy is becoming much more important as enterprises scale and grow their infrastructure. The energy efficiency features on Huawei switches reduce power consumption by up to 30%, and this has earned recognition from MyerCom for achievement in energy savings. And in the next 3 slides, I'm going to go just into some more detail on some of Huawei's value adds, and I'll cover energy savings in some good depth. So our first value add, as I mentioned, that I'd like to discuss, and believe me, these are just 3. The time that we have in this webinar, I could probably cover 103. But let me just point one out that's called cluster switching, which virtualizes multiple switches into a single high-performing logical switch. CSS simplifies network architecture and improves forwarding performance while maintaining network functions. It's got all the functions of physical switches in the cluster, but provides better performance and has therefore gained wide customer recognition, is becoming the preferred solution for simple and efficient network deployments. CSS offers the following three key features. Number one, many-to-one virtualization. It virtualizes, again, multiple switches into one logical switch that has a unified control plane and provides unified management. As you can imagine, that helps the network management team out from an OpEx perspective because they have that many fewer devices in order to manage. Number two, it has a unified forwarding plane. It uses that to share and synchronize the forwarding information base, or the FIB. And then finally, it's got inter-chassis link aggregation as a final key feature. It aggregates links between member switches into one trunk link. At the end of the day, to net it out, it provides the following top network benefits. Number one, simplified operation and maintenance. Again, it functions as a single logical switch, simplifying operation and thus reducing CapEx. Provides higher reliability. When one switch in a CSS fails, another switch in the CSS takes over the control and forwarding of packets to prevent services from being impacted by single point failures. So a very critical item in keeping network uptime going. Number three, it provides a loop-free network. It supports ISL or inter-chassis link aggregation to prevent loops. Therefore, the deployment of complicated protocols such as MSTP is unnecessary. And finally, load balancing. It supports equal cost multipathing across switches, making full use of network links and bandwidth. So there's no wasted network bandwidth or link that goes unused. So a very, very key feature again. The second value add I'd like to discuss is precise end-to-end flow detection. It's a protocol intended to detect faults in the bidirectional path between two forwarding engines, including physical interfaces, sub-interfaces, data links, and to the extent possible, the forwarding engines themselves with very low latency. It operates independently of media, data protocols, and routing protocols. And an additional goal is to provide a single mechanism that can be used for liveness detection over any media at any protocol layer with a wide range of detection times and overhead. And so we can tell here it's a very flexible solution. Some top important characteristics of bidirectional forwarding include, number one, simple fixed field encoding to facilitate implementations in hardware. Number two, independence of the data protocol being forwarded between the two systems. They're carried as a payload of whatever encapsulating protocol is appropriate for the medium and for the network. So again, a very flexible implementation. And then finally, it provides path independence. It can provide failure detection in any kind of path between systems, whether that includes direct physical links, virtual circuits, tunnels, MPLS, LSPs, multi-hop routed paths, and unidirectional links. So as long as there is some return path, of course. Okay, so I teed up this conversation regarding energy saving by discussing a little bit about our Meyercom recognition. Huawei is really the first to recognize how important power and energy consumption savings are to customers. We have huge data centers and campus networks of our own, as you can imagine, with an organization of 150,000 individuals. So we understand that it's one of the highest dollar item investments in IT today. Huawei switches support, among other things, IEEE 802.83 power over Ethernet, supplying 30 watts of power to endpoint devices from multiple vendors, such as IP phones, wireless access points, and network webcams. Our power sourcing equipment, or PSE, provides intelligent power management, including power allocation, detection, and classification of power devices over time. We also support 802.3AZ, energy efficient Ethernet, and it's capable of switching to a lower power mode in the line card during low link utilization periods, so for example at night. Network-wide power saving can also be achieved through our advanced hibernation management framework, which integrates both port ASIC hibernation and EEE technologies, and AHM can be deployed at each layer of the entire network. We also use things such as rotating ventilation channels and intelligent fan speed adjustment to improve heat dissipation efficiency and reduce power consumption. And that occurs on switches such as the 9300 that I mentioned. The energy efficiency features on Huawei switches reduce up to 30% and in some cases 50% power consumption, which meets the required criteria to achieve the reputed Microcom Energy Saving Verified Award. Okay, so moving from my campus solutions onto the data center. The Cloud Engine series provides high bandwidth up to 2 terabits per slot today and is expandable to the future with upgradable fabrics and line cards to a total system switching capacity of up to 64 terabytes, so extremely competitive versus other data center switching solutions in the market. It comes, as I'm showing here, in both a modular and a top-of-rack form factor. Enhancing device management and network reliability, the Cloud Engine series incorporates, again, cluster switching to virtualize multiple switches into one logical switch, as well as virtual system, featuring to virtualize one switch into multiple and independent logical devices. So, for example, you could run up to 8 instances of a switch on one switch and have multi-tenant users, all of whom are unaware of the existence of the other users. So I can run multiple departments, multi-tenants, or other applications, and have actually a firewall between each one of those instances so that no one user can access or even be aware of the other user pools on the switch. The Cloud Engine also supports virtual machines by allowing network administrators to build large-scale Layer 2 networks with over 500 nodes based on Trill, allowing for fast migration and flexible service deployment. The Cloud Engine series finally incorporates the industry's most efficient digital power modules, providing power efficiency of 96%. The system measures power consumption in real time and sets 1 or 2 power modules in sleep mode when system power demands are low. In addition, the switch uses patented front-to-rear ventilation channel design that isolates cold air channels from hot air channels, providing higher MTBS than most industry competitors. Speaking of competitors, let's take a quick look for comparison for Huawei versus Cisco, for example, on 40 gig port density, single slot 10 gig density, and maximum bandwidth per slot. And you'll notice that in each one of the categories, whether it's the Nexus 7000, the 4500, we stack up extremely well to, as the poll indicated, our major competitor in the data center space. All this information, by the way, is tested and available from both a density perspective and a performance perspective at www.microcom.com. Moving on then to my SDN-based switch, my Agile switch, the S12700. The 12700 series Agile switches are core switches designed for next-generation campus networks. Using a fully programmable switching architecture, the S12700 allows fast, flexible function customization and supports a smooth evolution to software-defined networking. At the heart of the S12700 is what I'm calling the Huawei Ethernet Network Processor, or ENP, and it provides native wireless access control as well to help build a wired and wireless converged network. That ENP allows me, instead of having an ASIC on board, to actually have a reprogrammable chip. So if there's a change in the protocol for SDN or some other area of the network, I can quickly download that new protocol and not wait for the next ASIC run of 18 months. So there's a huge time savings in deploying a solution such as the S12700. The S12700 runs Huawei's versatile routing platform, the VRP, which provides high-performance L2, L3 switching services, as well as rich network services such as MPLS VPN, hardware IPv6, desktop cloud, and video conferencing. In addition, the 12700 series offers a variety of reliability technologies, including ISSU, or in-service software upgrade, non-stop forwarding, CSS2 switch fabric hardware clustering, and also allows up to 1+N backups of MPUs and ring network protection. These technologies help you improve productivity and maximize network operation time, and therefore reduce the total cost of ownership of the entire solution. So again, the top 4 points of these switches that we announced in August and are now shipping, so August of 2013 are now shipping: SDN smooth migration, first native VRAS on a switch, router quality at switch cost, and finally, the first native terabit access controller. As the network scales and the number of enterprise network applications continue to grow, so does the number of devices, multi-service routers, gateways, and WLAN access points to be managed. To alleviate this operational burden, well, first to recognize that we are on a multi-vendor network with many types of devices. We've developed a unified network management system called eSight to provide a comprehensive view and management of all network and system resources to ensure network stability and to prove O&M efficiency. And again, that is the eSight platform. The eSight management platform provides various editions for enterprises, including compact, standard, and the professional version. In addition to uniform management of devices from various vendors, topology management, fault management, performance management, and smart configuration, eSight allows users to customize management of third-party devices, helping users to establish a network management system catering for their own needs. So the value adds here are reduced operation and maintenance costs, speedy fault identification, and overall better value add for IT through things like rich charting and reporting capabilities and assistance for easier load balancing and network expansion as that network continues to grow. And as I talk to most of my enterprises, none of their networks, quite frankly, are getting much smaller. They're all going, as we all know, in that other direction, the direction of growth. It would be a huge oversight for any of us to discuss, a Huawei or any other vendor, to discuss all of our switching, routing, et cetera solutions without recognizing that our customers operate multi-vendor networks and that the chances, quite frankly, in my case, of there being an all Huawei enterprise network in the U.S. right now is small. I'm going to have to interoperate with other vendors, and so we take this extremely seriously. Also, I'm the first to recognize that when customers do have a networking issue, what they don't want is finger pointing. They want to have network vendors that are used to working together to solve their issue. So it's in this spirit of doing right by the customer that we diligently test for interoperability with all major vendors and our iterations of protocols worldwide. We chair, among other things, several interoperability boards on the IEEE, and we maintain rigorous lab facilities here in the U.S., both in Santa Clara, in Plano, Texas, and around the world that continually test these issues. We often check in as well with organizations such as Tali and Meyercom in order to ensure that we're on the same page and we are current on interoperability issues. Okay, so Nick, I think there's no better way to bring the switching part of our webinar to an end than by talking about a real use case. And so this customer I'm bringing on is one of the customers for our campus switching solutions, and it's a major U.S. retailer. As a quick customer overview, it's got over 3,900 stores and about 300,000 employees in both the U.S. and Canada. It's got about $40 billion in revenue. And the retailing space, if you're familiar at all with this space, is going through a massive transformation. At the end of the day, modern shoppers have access to the web, have access to their mobile devices in stores, and they're getting much smarter and more tech-savvy about moving seamlessly between stores, online, and mobile for their shopping and research needs. And so to provide them the best shopping experience, it's of paramount importance for stores to stay connected so that sales representatives can get up-to-the-minute product, inventory, competitive pricing, and customer profile information to facilitate the interactions with the customers as well as easily receive training to improve their productivity. So our retailers' challenges in this case we summarized in three major areas. Providing connectivity in and across stores. Number two, protect customer privacy and ensure transaction security. And finally, because as we all know, retail is a very thin margin business, to minimize CapEx and OpEx and maximize investment to protection in this area, which, as I said, is notoriously narrow margin in nature. The Huawei solution in this case across stores, as noted in the diagram on this slide, consisted in various of our switching and wireless solutions. Number one, on the switching side, the S5700 as the access switch to connect various types of endpoints. Power to the endpoints, such as cash registers, IP phones, etc., was provided via our PoE capability that I previously talked about, or Power over Ethernet. The S5700 was also used as a core switch in each store, and for the future, and the organization is strongly considering the S9300 as a core switch in the campus or their main data center down the road. In summary, the Huawei solution provided improved network connectivity and capacity by upgrading the links from 10/100 to 1 to 10 gig, thus improving service quality with higher speeds and lower delays. And the overall power consumption was reduced by up to 50% by utilizing Huawei's energy-efficient Ethernet and advanced hibernation management techniques that I talked about. So a huge, straight to the bottom line drop in their cost. The switches supported higher speed data transmission over legacy fiber, thus avoiding the need to replace existing fiber deployed. And again, as I said, power is provided to many endpoints using PoE capability of the switch. And that's hugely important, as we all know, if you ever been to a store layout, that many times at the actual point of sale, there's very little in the way of separate power outlets. And so this is a huge, huge convenience. So at the end of the day, to summarize this part of the webinar, let me leave you with 3 top thoughts. Why consider Huawei? If I take that next step and take advantage of some of the financial offers that Nick will talk about, well, let me tell you 3 reasons. Number 1, in the campus, 10 to 40 and 100 gig transition superiority. Number 1, I've taught this topic to death a little bit, the green solution, BYOD ready, and superior wired and wireless convergence. Number 2, for my data center, why Huawei? Industry-leading switching performance and density, SDN-ready solutions, as I discussed, second-to-none power-saving features, and product line support for all data center technologies, not just switching, but switching, optical, routing, and security. So fundamentally, Huawei is an end-to-end data center vendor and understand what it takes to put together a data center solution. And then finally, in the metro, as I mentioned, end-to-end quality assurance and that all-important single platform management end-to-end in the metro space. Okay, so Nick, at this point, I will turn it back to you for some very interesting financial offers.
All right, Thomas, fantastic job. I know that's a lot to cover in a short amount of time, so very well done. And keep those questions coming. We are going to spend about 10 minutes on Q&A. What we want to talk to you about now is a promotion called Switch Your Switch. And Huawei has already announced a promotion to the VAR community, so all of our resellers have a very aggressive promotion for selling Huawei product. But this particular part of the promotion is focused on end users. And what we're saying here is if you are buying a competitive switch from somebody, say Cisco or HP, we will look at whatever your buy price is for that switch and we will match it. And in addition to matching it, we'll give you an instant rebate. And you can see on the table here it ranges from a low of $100 up to a high of $2,000 depending on the model that you're buying and kind of what the cost of that different kind of device is. So Huawei is so interested in you trying one of our products that we will match any competitor's price and we will give you an instant rebate. So this is really just a fantastic opportunity to get a feel for all the technology and capability that Thomas has been talking about over the last hour. Again, if you're a VAR, come on to our website in the partner section and you'll see a corollary offer, a Switch Your Switch campaign that's specific to the VAR community that allows you to be able to offer this pricing and this rebate to the end customers. So for more information about that, go check out our website, which will show you the URL for that in a minute. But this is, we think, the biggest promotion that we've ever seen in the networking space. And we think it takes all barriers out of the way for you to try a Huawei switching product. Next thing we want to mention just briefly is just a little bit about where you can come and see us. So on the next slide, we've got a couple of different places. Thomas just mentioned that he was at RSA last week in San Francisco, but coming up in the next month, Huawei is going to be at Interop in Las Vegas. That's March 31st through April 4th. This is a massive trade show, and Huawei has a very significant presence there where you'll be able to go and see these solutions that we've talked about and speak with various product experts. And then shortly after that, still in Las Vegas, is the NAB show. This is the show that's really focused around media and entertainment, lots of storage products to be seen there, server products. So these two shows are very large opportunities for you to come and see Huawei and all its hardware and software solutions and speak to a lot of the technical experts within the company. So we just wanted you to be aware of those and have the ability to come and see us if you're going to those shows. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and move to the Q&A section. And Thomas, we do have lots of questions, so I know we only have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to try to dive right in on those. And the first one is going to be for you. If you could go ahead and advance one more slide so we can get to the contact information. So if you want to come and look at past webinars, if you want to see all the latest product information, this is the website you want to go to. It's www.huaweienterpriseusa.com. that has a special section for our partners where you can register deals and get training and certification. And it also has just a massive section for end users and partners alike that talks about products, talks about our various vertical solutions. Just an excellent website for all things Huawei. If you want to send us an email and you have a specific question or you want to have somebody follow up with you, the email to send it to is huaweiinfo@huawei.com, or you can call directly into our inside sales team at 855-472-9656. So these are the best ways to reach out to us. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and ask the first question. Thomas, this one's going to be for you. The question is, you mentioned Huawei VRP. Is that the equivalent to Cisco iOS? And how hard is it going to be for me to learn the Huawei operating system?
So that's an excellent question, because obviously one concern that any company has is if I'm used to a certain install base and the user interfaces can be one of the toughest things to learn, and how do I scale if I'm going to allow Huawei in my network? So to answer your question, yes, VRP, or Virtual Routing Platform, is that operating system. We're currently on version 8. And the good thing to know is that unlike a lot of other vendors, we actually run one OS across all our platforms. So at the end of the day, you'll be learning one OS, not multiple OSs. So that is definitely in our favor. A couple of points regarding how easy it is to learn. I have actually known many people who have come from various other companies, including Cisco, to Huawei in the engineering department, and they've actually all remarked to me how very quickly they were able to scale up and learn the platform. So a very easy look and feel, similar to what they've seen before. And so anecdotally, at the end of the answer is yes, absolutely, easy to scale into. Probably the easiest way, however, for us to prove it to you is to schedule a call with either one of our resellers or perhaps one of our direct AMs, and actually schedule a test drive of the VRP user interface. Love to have that conversation, love to discuss it with you, and really the proof is always in the pudding. We do hold also at any trade show you'll be at, if you want to come by and we have a live demo running, be an engineer who'll be glad to kind of take a break from the demo and drop in the VRP and just show you a quick test drive as well. So that's another great way where you can use a trade show venue, if you would, to get answers to those types of questions. We also do have, Nick, and I think you're probably going to potentially mention this at the end, certification courses that we can discuss if that's of interest to you. That's certainly something that we'd love to have a discussion about.
Excellent. Yeah, you kind of dovetailed into one of the other questions, which was where can I see a live demo of these solutions and how can I arrange that? And I think Thomas touched on a number of different ways. There's the trade shows that we're offering where you can come and see us. You can set up a webinar, a web-based demo. We also do have executive briefing centers in Plano, Texas, and also in Cupertino, California. So there's lots of different ways you can connect with us, either virtually through some kind of WebEx or directly visiting us face-to-face. So if you have an interest in seeing a demo, please give us a call or send us an email, and we'll help arrange that. So that was that other question, which is great. Thomas also touched briefly on the Huawei technical certification courses, and I just want to clarify, there's two different kinds of certification that we have. If you're a Huawei reseller and you're selling our products, you can actually come in as a VAR onto our website, and you can get Huawei Certified Sales Professional and Huawei Certified Sales Engineer training, which will give you enough information to understand how to sell the products, how to talk about them, how to architect solutions. But the other set of courses we have is actually significantly more in-depth, and these are official professional services training courses where you'll come in for 5 days and you'll learn how to take the product out of the box, unpack it, plug it in, configure it, and complete soup to nuts understanding of how to get the Huawei products up and running and completely configured. We have many partners and end users who have gone through those trainings. So if you have an interest in that, again, contact us and we'll set you up with the next available training, and you can get tied into that. This next one is for you, Thomas. It says, I know you mentioned this Meyercom testing. Has the Huawei 12800 series product line been tested by Meyercom or other independent third-party testing?
So it absolutely has, and again, I think I mentioned briefly in my comments, we're going to Meyercom.com. And Meyercom, for those who are not familiar with it, is a U.S.-based testing organization. And you'll see most of the products from most of the networking infrastructure vendors tested there at one time or another, whether that be wireless, switching, routing, or any other type of technology. And so specifically, the Cloud Engine was absolutely tested, both the modular version and the top-of-rack version was tested across a variety of performance benchmarks, as well as energy-saving benchmarks. And we really did come out with flying colors. I would highly advocate, if you hadn't had a chance yet, to go ahead and download the report on myrecom.com. Simply go there, do a quick inquiry or a search on Cloud Engine, and a couple, again, types of reports should pop out at you. And again, we had, bursting tests, we had total bandwidth testing, we had a variety of tests that we ran to overload certain parts of the switch, and time it came back and proved its mettle, not just for itself, but really very competitive, very superior to a lot of the industry solutions today. And I understand that it is a bit of a leapfrogging game, that we do have switches that come out all the time and do these type of testing, but for its time, it certainly has provided something incredibly impressive results, and will continue to do so as we add more and more bandwidth. As I said, more line cards, more modules are added to the solution for that total terabit capacity that it has.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, the next question came in about the special rebate offer that we talked about. It says, how do I take advantage of the instant rebate offer from Huawei? So the way you do that is, and this is if you're an end user and you either have an invoice or a proposal for a competitive switch, you can basically go to your reseller and say, hey, I'd like to entertain buying the comparable Huawei switch. I've seen the table here. I believe it's whatever model it is that's comparable to the one you're buying. And then your reseller can contact us, and we will help work through the process with them so that they can sell you that product at the price that you were about to buy, plus we'll give you back the instant rebate that's reflected on the table. If your reseller is not familiar with Huawei or for whatever reason doesn't want to work with us, we're more than happy to entertain you one of our other resellers that we have, and we can certainly help connect you with someone who would be more than willing to sell you a Huawei product. So either way, you can absolutely get the product. We prefer it if you buy it through your normal reseller, and we'll help them through the process. But if you don't have a reseller or you want to, find one in your area, we can help you. We can help you accomplish that. Next question is, how does Huawei's data center switching portfolio stack up against Cisco and HP from a performance and reliability perspective?
So this harkens back, Nick, to the discussion I just had regarding Myrecom. Again, I think that the key criteria clearly from a data center perspective are embodied in some of the key characteristics of the switch. Its overall bandwidth, its failure-proof nature, its power characteristics, and across all of those, I think it's extremely competitive. And a lot of that, like I said, is discussed in the Myrecom report. Avail yourself of that report, and if you do have plans to travel down the interop, which I'm sure a lot of you do, we will be showcasing actually the Cloud Engine and the data center switching portfolio in the interop booth. That'd be a fantastic opportunity. We do have a large booth, and that'd be a fantastic opportunity for you to see the breadth of our data center solutions, whether that be switching, whether that be storage, or any other data center technology that you can imagine. We will have that showcase there, and our subject matter experts will be very much present to discuss data center switching or any other data center topic that you'd like.
Well, Thomas, the good news is that we had lots and lots of questions. The bad news is we are out of time. So if we did not answer your question, we will follow up with you individually after. I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. It's actually 1 minute after the hour now. So on behalf of Thomas, we'd like to thank you very much for spending this hour with us. This webinar is recorded and will be on the website. You can see the URL on the screen there. And we'll look forward to seeing you very soon on another Huawei webinar or seeing you at one of our trade shows. Thanks again for the time.